Do you recognize this person? This is Kaito Tanaka. He's the suspect in this case. But what kind of person is he? The answer is hidden in the labyrinth of his consciousness, and we'll need to find it if we're to get to the bottom of this mystery. In the world of cybercrime, there are few names that strike fear into the hearts of authorities and tech experts like the Ghost. This elusive hacker has become infamous for his daring attacks on corrupt individuals and organizations, exposing their secrets and bringing them to justice. But who is the Ghost really? Why does he fight for justice in the shadows? And what lengths will the authorities go to bring him down? Let's dive into the intriguing world of ethical hacking and find out. But wait, we have to introduce you to our latest sponsor, NordPass, a password manager that helps you keep your online accounts safe and secure. Using the same encryption technology used by the US military, NordPass keeps your passwords safe and accessible with just one master password. You can effortlessly autofill your login information on all your devices, eliminating the need to remember dozens of passwords. NordPass also features a built-in password generator, a secure platform for storing sensitive information, and a VPN blocker to enhance your online privacy. With NordPass, you can confidently navigate the digital world knowing that your passwords are in good hands. Now back to the show. In the dimly lit room, Kaito Tanaka nervously tapped his fingers on the table, his eyes darting around the stark white walls. Across from him sat Detective Inspector Eva Rostova, her gaze unwavering and intense, determined to uncover the truth. The atmosphere was thick with tension as Kaito shifted uncomfortably in his seat, aware that his fate hung in the balance. The arrest of Kaito Tanaka was a brilliant example of contemporary enforcement tactics. It was not only clean and quick, but it was also supported by an overwhelming amount of data. For a period of 18 months, Detective Inspector Eva Rostova had been attempting to locate and apprehend the Ghost. The Ghost was neither a murderer or a robber. Rather, he was a digital specter that specialized in ethical hacks, which are hacks that are intended to be morally justifiable but that have devastating implications in the actual world. He had made public the adverse effects of a medication that may be lethal, so exposing a pharmaceutical business. As a result of this revelation, the stock market experienced a panic that caused billions of dollars of losses. He had publicly disseminated private emails, which embarrassed a mayor who was engaged in corrupt activities and indirectly contributed to the man's decision to end his life. Rostova had a deep-seated resentment for him since he was acting as if he were a god and he was a vigilante whirlwind. A single arrogant mistake led to the opportunity for a break. A home internet service provider was linked to a minute data signature that was derived from the most recent manifesto of the Ghost via the use of an algorithm that was constructed to order. A warrant was signed and put into effect. A tactical squad made its way inside the little flat at 4:03 in the morning. Kaito was sitting at his desk when they discovered him. He was surrounded by 7 monitors that were all lit up, and the reflections of lines of code were visible in his eyes, which were wide with shock. The Ghost's characteristic emblem, which was a grinning mask that was transparent, was shown on the center screen. It was still in the process of being completed. According to everyone who was involved, the case was simple and straightforward. The media rejoiced. The commissioner primped and preened. Rostova indulged in a single drink of whiskey, which gave her a feeling of contentment. Kaito did not meet her expectations once she encountered him in the aseptic questioning chamber. He did not demonstrate any arrogance or resistance to authority. His hands were shaking, he was smoking one cigarette after another, and he was very afraid. Rostova started by sliding a file across the table and said, "Please give me some details regarding the emails of the mayor." His voice was on the verge of breaking as he murmured, "I did not want any of them to die. I just thought people should know." He made an admission of guilt for every single thing. The Ghost was the only one who could possibly have knowledge of the information that he was aware of. However, the way that he confessed gave off the impression that he was reciting something. It was as if he was reading from a screenplay that he had learned but did not quite comprehend. He demonstrated accurate use of highly technical terminology. But when Rostova, who had previously been a white-hat hacker, began to inquire more on the methods employed in the mayor's breach, his responses became evasive, approaching the level of poetry. He was looking at his hands, which were bound by cuffs, when he made the statement, "It's about finding the cracks in the light." The world is not a concrete entity. It is simply agreed-upon fabrication. Rostova made a mental note of the peculiar term. It was her opinion that she was a strange person. Nevertheless, all of the evidence was there and accounted for. A lady made her way to the police station on the next day. Dr. Aris Thorne is a highly respected neuroscientist who works in a neuro-linguistic programming (NLP) laboratory that is at the forefront of the field. She was in a state of utter panic. She said, her voice tense with a sense of urgency, "You have the wrong man. I am treating Kaito Tanaka. He is not the ghost. He is nothing but a vessel." Rostova let out a scornful laugh. "What is the purpose of this vessel?" "Justice," Dr. Thorne said, "for the sake of an idea." She shared with them an explanation of her life's work, which consisted of a controversial treatment for severe post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Patients who are suffering from traumatic memories might benefit from the use of enhanced natural language processing and subliminal training. Both of these techniques could assist patients in re-narrating their experiences, which would ultimately aid with the healing process by convincing them to believe in a version of events that is less damaging. Her countenance was pallid as she said, "Our project, however, was taken over by someone else." A silent partner is someone who invests capital in a company or partnership, but does not take an active role in the day-to-day operations of the business. After providing us with the funding, he assumed control of the study. He reached the point of perfection in the process, but it was not for the sake of healing. For the purpose of implantation, he has the ability to create a complete and intricate memory and full personality, and then plant it in the mind of an individual. Rostova was suddenly struck with a feeling of dread. "You're telling me someone programmed Kaito to believe he's the ghost?" Dr. Thorne responded, "It is even worse than that. He didn't just have faith in it. He was the right choice. Neurologically speaking, the memories, the talents, and the shame were all his to bear. However, they did not belong to him. He is a scapegoat who is still alive and breathing. A masterpiece of psychological framing." The many elements of the situation came together in a way that was frighteningly clear. The chief executive officer of the pharmaceutical firm had a competitor in the silent partner. He caused the stock market to tumble by inventing the ghost and then getting him to reveal the company's secrets to the public. He then went on to short the company's shares, which resulted in his earning an enormous amount of money. The mayor of the city? He was a hindrance to a real estate transaction that was worth billions of dollars. Exposure of the ghost led to his being removed. The contract was awarded to the construction company that was owned by the silent partner. It was not Kaito who committed the crime. He was the one who was going to be used as the weapon. The crime wasn't the hacking itself. It was the stealing of a man's psyche. The attacker had not hacked into a server. He had broken into a human being. The human brain is like a maze, and the true criminal was a ghost living in a separate machine, the human brain. He had committed the ideal crimes, and he had done it without ever touching a computer and without leaving behind a single digital fingerprint. After he had finished writing a character who was supposed to be a villain into another person's narrative, he closed the book. Rostova positioned herself in front of Kaito's cell. He gazed up at her, his eyes seeming to be empty. His voice was unsteady as he replied, "These are my memories. I have a recollection of how the keys felt to the touch, the fear of being apprehended, the feeling of being guilty. If you have a memory of doing something, how is it possible that you may be considered guilty of doing something you didn't do?" There was no response Rostova could provide. She had apprehended the individual who was responsible for the crime, discovered the weapon that was used in the murder, and resolved the case. However, she had never felt more far from justice. The guy who was confined to the cell was both guilty and innocent at the same time. He was a prisoner of his own psyche. The actual perpetrator of the crime was still at large, wealthier and more powerful than ever before, having come upon the most precious commodity of all, not money, not data, but rather the indisputable alibi provided by the awareness of another individual. What do you think? Was Kaido framed? And if so, who was behind it and why? And what do you think will happen to him now? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all our future content. Thanks for watching.